bit about yourself and how you started working in the field of social work.
That's a very interesting question because social work actually was never something I thought I would be doing. I started my career in the side of behavioral health or behavioral sciences. I actually started early off when I was in my freshman year of college. I started going to school and I went in for business. I thought I was gonna own some type of business, probably a childcare or something like that. And I actually walked out of my very first class because I said, if this is what the whole business thing is gonna be, I don't know if I could do it for the rest of my life. And the only space they had to cover for that semester was a psychology class.
Wow.
And I absolutely fell in love with my psychology class, the content. I started learning a lot about myself. There was a lot of connection to how I grew up and some of the things that I had gone through personally. I thought if I could sit and talk to someone about their life and their childhood, maybe I can make a difference because it's making a difference in me. So I pursued psychology. In my mind, I thought I am gonna be a counselor full-time and I'm gonna have clients from morning to night. Quickly, I realized I did not want to do that. I do love providing counseling and it's something I still do on the side, but I could not see myself doing that for long periods of time. And an opportunity came up where someone approached me at church, and he's a really great friend of mine, Myra Hernandez. He offered me a position for social worker, and I used to think social workers, right? You hear the stories, they burn out, there's a high turnaround. What am I gonna do in this career? Is it even gonna be a career? But I thought I want to try something different and I still want to help. I want to be in the helping profession. I just don't know how. And immediately I knew this is why God brought me here. And this was the reason and the purpose for my life. And I have now been in this field for probably a little over 4 years.
Awesome.
And I feel like every day I grow and every day I learn, but this is definitely the place I want to be.
Perfect. If you could tell any upcoming social worker some of the things that you wish you would have known before becoming a social worker, what would you tell them?
If I could tell a social worker is you have to give yourself permission to be all in, because social work is not just about going into the homes for a few minutes and talking to the kids and making sure the kids are okay. If you see this through this lens of ministry, and we talk a lot about this, and I know as people get to know us better and SNL and what this is, you're gonna come to find that when you see social work through the lens of ministry, you're talking about investing and seeing these kids as more than just caseload. These kids are a life, and one day they will be adults. Now, you have all authority and all right to be someone in their life that makes a difference. Someone who's constant, consistent, someone who has a lot of patience, someone who becomes more of a mentor and believes in them and tells them that whatever happened in their life was not their choice, but the decisions they make moving forward is their choice. They do have choices. And if someone would have told me that from the beginning, I think from case number 1, I would have walked all in and I would have said what needs to be done and how much more can I do to help one child at a time. I had someone that I loved very dearly. His name was Emiliano Flores. He was one of the ministers at our church, very dear to our family. He always told me, if you want to change the world, you change the world one person at a time.
Wow.
And if you think of life that way, change one person at a time. You don't think about every single person needs you. You think about, I need it here at this moment right now, and what can I do?
Perfect. question that a lot of us want to know. What is the most rewarding experience that you feel like you've had while being a social worker?
I definitely have to say there's a few, but one of the most rewarding is seeing how a child's walls starts to come down when they start to trust you. As an FFA worker, you work with these kids pretty often. You see them more often than county workers. You see them more often than other staff members that are part of their team, although everyone in their team is very important. But as an FFA, you become a part of this home. You're there very often. You get to know the resource family very well, and you get to know these kids very well, or young teenagers. But the most rewarding aspect for me is when you start to see those walls come down. You start to see the change in behaviors, the change in greetings. You start to see the personalities, the actual personalities, who they are, come out. The protection of I have to put a facade on, or I have to act a certain way because I don't know how I'm going to be treated, or what this person is going to think of me, or if they're here to come and hurt me or to come and just leave me. All of those things you start to see at the moment you walk in the door and they run to hug you.
Yes.
Or they run and they want to show you something they're very proud of. And it could be something as simple as, I've struggled to make my bed, but today I made it by myself. And they will drag you into that room to show you what they've done, their faces, their body language, the sense of I did something right, or I did something that maybe was a challenge even for myself, but I did it and I overcame it. And it's something so small sometimes, but the reaction that comes from you as a social worker, the pride of, I've seen your struggle, I've seen your journey, and now I get to see what you've been able to accomplish with structure, with being in a loving home, with having a team that cares about you. And those are the moments, I think, that when there are hard moments, they keep you going. Because this same, child or young minor might cause another challenge later on. But when the challenges come, you think, but remember what they did and the capacity that they have. And you kind of tend to see this is just a moment where all of their trauma and their battles are coming back out. How can we now overcome this as well? So to me, that's one of the most rewarding things, and one of the things that I absolutely love about this career that I've chosen.
Awesome. And last question, what would you say is the biggest stereotype that you've heard just when engaging with foster youth?
I think one of the biggest stereotypes, and I hear this very often, it sounds like such a beautiful thing to do, but I just feel like I'm gonna get too attached to these kids, and when they have to go back to their family, that I'm not gonna be able to do it, or I won't overcome that. And I would say to that, yes, it's true. Even as a social worker, I get too attached to some of these kids, and when it's time for reunification, a little bit of that hurts that they're leaving, right?
Yes.
But again, lens of ministry, this is not for you. This is for them. And if you are in their life 3 days, 10 days, a year, 3 years, think about what did they have during that time that they wouldn't have had I not opened my home, had I not been too attached.
Yes.
Because they need that attachment. They need that love. They need that care. They need someone to say, while you're here, you are as if you were my child, and you will not notice any different. And when you go home, you're going home because you're prepared to go home, but the time that you were here, you will never forget those memories. You will never forget this experience you had. And that child may be too young to say thank you in that moment. But that child is gonna one day be a 25, 30-year-old who's gonna say, I remember one time I had some resource parents who loved me as their own for this amount of time, who told me this word, who held me when it was hard, who walked me to my parents every time I had a visit. And when I had a hard visit, they loved me through that. And they made me feel that I was gonna be okay. And then I finally was reunified with my parents when they were ready for me. But during that time, I was loved. So I challenge that stereotype with embrace that. Embrace the I will get too attached. You will. And you'll cry and we'll console you. And that's my job. My job is to come and console you and tell you that it's going to be okay. And we'll walk through your grieving process and we'll prepare you for the next. Because if you feel that deep connection, and if your biggest fear is being too attached, you're the type of family I want to work with. So I challenge that stereotype and I say embrace it rather than be afraid of it. And you are the type of family these children need. You are enough, is what I would say.
Thank you, Myra.